Srila Prabhupada Leela, this is the epilogue. In describing how the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, continue to relish the nectar of sangam and separation, we are not speaking of only a small band of several thousand devotees whom he initiated during his lifetime. Srila Prabhupada was not only an acharya, but he was the founder of acharya of the Krishna consciousness movement, which is a dynamic spiritual reality. That reality is nothing less than the Dharma, or the form of spiritual life recommended for all humanity in the first age of Kali, the most dangerous of ages in which humanity eventually abandons all religious principles. The ultimate goal of human life was taught by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita when he declared, "Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear." Krishna taught this 5,000 years ago when he appeared in the world, but people have misinterpreted and misunderstood what Krishna meant. Lord Chaitanya invented him, therefore, to revive the original message of surrender to Krishna, primarily by introducing the Sankirtan movement to the chanting of the ways of God. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, appearing in the 19th century, foresaw that Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan principles could and would be introduced all over the world. He had studied deeply many of the religions and philosophies, and he thought that Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan was universal, the essence of religious life, able to unite all people and bring them to perfection. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who became the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, who ordered Srila Prabhupada to implement the vision of worldwide Krishna consciousness by going to preach in the West. Srila Prabhupada ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, entitled The History of the Life of Ajamil, its text 17. Sandrichino hi ayam loke Sandrichino yayam loke Panta Shemo Kuto Bhaya Antashemo Kutobaya Shishila Sandavo Yatra Shushila Sadavo Yatra Narayana 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 Parayana Sandrichino Yayam Sandrichino Yayam Loke Antashemo Kutobaya Shushila Sadavo Yatra Narayana Parayana Sadrichino Yayam Loke Antashemo Kutobaya Shushila Sadavo Yatra Narayana Parayana Sandrichino Yayam Loke Antashemo Kutobaya Shushila Sadavo Yatra Narayana Parayana Sadrichina, just appropriate. He, certainly. I am this. Loke, in the world. Panta, path. Shema, auspicious. Kutubaya, without fear. Shushila, well behaved. Sadhava, saintly persons. Yatra, wherein. Those who take the path of Narayan, devotional service as the life and soul. Translation: the path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras. Responsible, please. The path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras. One should not think that the person who takes to bhakti is one who cannot perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, or is not sufficiently educated to speculate on spiritual subjects. Mayavadi generally allege that the bhakti path is for women and literates. This is a groundless accusation. The bhakti path is followed by the most learned scholars, such as the Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Ramanujacharya. These are the actual followers of the bhakti path. regardless of whether or not one is educated or aristocratic. One must follow in their footsteps. Mahajano Yenikata Satanka. One must follow the path of the Mahajans. The Mahajans are those who have taken to the path of devotional service. Shushila Sadavo Yatra Anayana Parayana. But these great personalities are the perfect persons. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12, Yajashti Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana, Salve Gunai Tatra Samaste Sudha. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. The less intelligent, however, misunderstand the Bhakti path, and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute ritualistic ceremonies or speculate. As confirmed here by the word Sadvichina, Bhakti is the path that is appropriate, not the paths of Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Mayavadis may be Shushila Sadhava, well-behaved, saint persons, but there is nevertheless some doubt about whether they are actually making progress, for they have not accepted the path of Bhakti. On the other hand, those who follow the path of the chariots are Shushila and Sadhava, but furthermore, their path is Akutto Vaya, which means free from fear. One should fearlessly follow the 12 Mahajans and their line of Pacific succession, and thus become liberated from the touches of Maya. Oh my God, let's Sharinandana Shalakaya Chakshuranandana Tasma Shigaleva Shite Manobistan Sapatavye Swanu Maya Dati Savantika Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Gauravakinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So again, the path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and is authorized by the Shastras. So Prabhupada starts the purport by saying, one should not think that persons who take the bhakti, is one who cannot perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Karma kind of sections. So that is one of the allegations put forward by the Mayavadis, that people who are following the Bhakti path are only doing it because they can't follow ritualistic ceremonies, or they can't follow Jnana Kanda. So Prabhupada's making a distinction that the followers of Bhakti are very learned scholars, like the Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramanujacharya, and that we should follow the customs of the Mahajans. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of God has all the good qualities of the demigods. So less intelligent misunderstand the Bhakti path, and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute ritualistic ceremonies or speculate, as confirmed here by Sudrichina Bhakti. So it may be that the Mayavadis could be considered Shushila and Sadhava, which is a well-behaved saintly, but there's still some doubt about them making progress until they accept the path of Bhakti. And then Prabhupada distinguishes the path of Bhakti from the path of the Mayavadis that may be developing good qualities, because the path of Bhakti is one that's free from fear. So the Mayavadis are not free from fear. So one should fearlessly follow the 12 Mahajans. So interesting, Prabhupada was making the point yesterday also that the Lord kind of preempts us, saying, do not fear. So he's already aware that that's going to be the main barrier to taking up the path of Bhakti is fear. And that's what distinguishes those that are on the path of Bhakti from those that are not, is their freedom from fear. Shri Ramanuja was saying that the prime qualification for a sannyasi is to be fearless. Prabhupada also gives the example of the sannyasis in the dead of night in the forest, and he hears the tiger, and he thinks that the Lord is in my heart and the Lord is in the tiger's heart, so the Lord will protect me. So that's a symptom of someone that's actually on the Bhakti path. that is free from fear. And then fear, concomitant fear, according to how much we're attached, is how much is fear. They say of the four propensities: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And defending is sometimes referred to as fearing. The fearing is the strongest animal propensity, because what we're afraid of is not getting our mating, not getting our eating, and not getting our facility to sleep. So it's the fear aspect that pervades everything. And this fear is born of attachment. So as one becomes free of attachment, then he becomes free of fear. Because there's nothing to be afraid of anymore. If you're aware that you're not the body, and you're an eternal spirit soul, and your position is just to serve Krishna, and there's no prestige, no looking for respect, then there's nothing to be afraid of. The gross fear in the form of people attacking you or chasing you around, and then the subtle fear is how do people look upon me? Is this going to be good for my image? How am I being recognized in society? So this is like the subtle type of fear that is there. So one on the bhakti path becomes free from these, and also he develops a saint quality, and he develops all the qualities of the demigods automatically. And Mahatma Prabhu was explaining, if you distinguish the difference between chanting Namarad and chanting Namavas, Namavas is chanting to the best of our ability, and that brings us into the mode of goodness automatically. So automatically, just by chanting Namavas, which is the middle stage of chanting, and we develop the good qualities of the demigods. And potentially, we will go beyond the qualities of the demigods, because even the demigods have fear. Indra is always afraid that someone's going to usurp his position. And so he's pushing out, see who's been performing austerities and trying to disturb them so they don't threaten his position. So there's fear even amongst the demigods, but the devotee is distinguished from the demigods and the Maya bodies because of his freedom from fear. And that freedom from fear, Krishna is assuring us, I will give you that freedom from fear. You have to take the first step. You have to come toward me. And then I will take away the fear. So we may be approaching Krishna with so many impurities and so many disqualifications. But what qualified Dhruva Maharaj was Tivrena, was that he had this intensity to approach Krishna. And so if we have that intensity, then even if there is fear there and so many disqualifications, Krishna will reciprocate with that intensity by removing all the fear and all the disqualifications, and endow us with all the good qualities of the demigods. Any questions or comments? Yes? Where does it refer to? Yes. Certainly the most authorized. Well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications. Well, yeah, well behaved is something that would have to be qualified. You could have mundane morality. Yudhisthira was trying to be well behaved, and Krishna told him to say Ashvatthama is dead. And so Yudhisthira hesitated, and they had to blow the conch. And he said, Ashvatthama, brr, the elephant, brr, is dead. And so then when Dronacharya heard that, he just sat down in the chariot, and then Drishadyumna took his head off. So, but because Yudhisthira hesitated, his chariot, which up until then, because of his adherence to truthfulness and dharma, had been floating on the ground, because he became adharmic by not following what Krishna wanted, then he lost his dharma. He lost his... and so well-behaved is only in relation to Krishna. If Krishna is satisfied, otherwise, if he's not satisfied, then Hari Toshanam. If he is satisfied, Toshanam. Otherwise, everything is a waste of time. And if we don't know whether Krishna is satisfied, then we have to go to the representative. And if we don't know whether the representative is satisfied, then we have to go to the representative of the representative. And somebody was asking one time, how do you know whether the spiritual master is pleased with you? And no, how does the spiritual master know whether you're doing nicely? And the answer was, well, he asks the temple president. So that's interesting, isn't it? So if you want to know if you're well behaved, ask the temple president, because he'll be telling the spiritual master, oh, he's been a very naughty boy. Or he's been very good, he's been working very hard, and he's been very enthusiastic. So even if you don't like the particular personality that's in the position, then you can still respect them as your via medium for the spiritual master. And Shiva Ramanuja was saying, and if the spiritual master, if the temple president says something wrong, then I apologize. So on behalf of all the temple presidents in ISKCON, the spiritual masters are apologizing, but they're asking you to cooperate with them nicely, and you'll show your love for your spiritual master by doing that, and ultimately your love for Srila Prabhupada also. If someone says, oh, I love Srila Prabhupada, but I just cannot cooperate with the devotees, they're so annoying, then how much love do they have for Srila Prabhupada?
Thank you for the next answer. The second part of the verse, this is so that heart is free from fear and is authorized by Shastras. So would that indicate somehow or another adhering to that path, or they haven't quite gone that path?
Yeah, that's a nice question. Well, we may be in a transitional. We may be walking along in a ditch that has broken glass bottles and empty Coca-Cola cans, and we're walking along it, and we're on a trajectory which is bringing us on an incline out of the ditch onto the path. So the path is free from anything to be afraid of. It's clear and broad. But we may be in an intermediary stage of crossing over from one path which is very fearful onto a path which is free from fear. And so we could say, well, I'm experiencing still fear, but I'm certainly experiencing a lot less fear than I was when I first started on the path. Or if I'm experiencing more fear now than I did when I first started on the path, then we have to look at that and see what's going on. Could be a mission drift, could be a path drift, drifting off the path of fearlessness and drifting back into fearful situations. Or it could be a japa fade. I've just been listening to Vaisheshika Prabhu, he's talking about japa fade. He says japa fade takes place every day, 0.5%. So you don't even notice that your japa is fading. He said, when people stop chanting japa, they think that they've suddenly stopped chanting japa, but they haven't. They've been fading out until eventually one day they just don't chant anymore. So that there has to be natvam sandashito tatra dushtaram nishtitetasam kalam saparampamsam kanadara ivanavam. We think that we've met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross over this difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of a human being. So being in an ocean is a fearful situation. And the only situation which is fearless in the ocean is to be on a ship that's being guided by a very capable captain. So ISKCON is like a ship. It's Srila Prabhupada's ship. Srila Prabhupada is at the helm of the ship, and he's guiding the ship back to Godhead. And on the ship, there are all these different rooms, and in each room is a particular spiritual master. And some rooms are more Rasika, and some rooms are more into Kirtan, some are more into Sankirtan. They all have their different flavors. And so you find a room that you really like, and then the guru of that particular room, his job is to make sure that you're healthy and you don't jump ship. And the ship's going home back to Godhead, so if everybody stays on the ship, then everything's great, everything's fine. So the situation becomes fearful when we start thinking, I think I'm better off the ship, actually. I think I'll be doing better if I jump off the ship. And it can seem like you're free from fear and disturbance when you're off the ship, because you're not getting tossed about anymore by the modes of nature. But you're in the proceeds of drowning, so you're becoming desensitized to the difficulty of the situation, the danger of the situation. And danger is, fear, there can be healthy fear, As Winston Churchill once said, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. So we can be afraid of material attachment, and we can want to become abhayam. And Srila Prabhupada was fearless because he had such strong faith in the spiritual master. But what's interesting is that Srila Prabhupada was already successful in his mission when he went on the Jaladuta, because he'd already decided to take his spiritual master's instruction as his life and soul. So whatever happened after that, he was already successful because he decided to do that. So that's the path of fearlessness. That's what the Mahajans are showing us how to do. So the things to be afraid of are losing our enthusiasm, losing our faith, bad association, sangha jagat, satovriti. We should reject association which is filling us with fear, and we should follow in the footsteps of the satos, the saintly personalities. We should be looking for the association of devotees who are fearless, listening to Srila Prabhupada and reading Srila Prabhupada regularly, all the spiritual masters, all the great devotees, all the Shiksha Gurus in ISKCON, and they're guiding us away from fearful conditions, fearful situations.
It's interesting also in the last sentence. There's 2 points that are made that path is free from fear is authorized.
Yeah.
It's authorized, and you don't have to be afraid or be sure whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It seems like those 2 things go hand in hand. When you follow an unauthorized path, then you don't have to be afraid of anything.
So that's what we need. We need to have a fear. Like we have these, we're doing these tests every day to check we're okay. We can have fear tests to check we're okay. And if the fear is very high, then we know, oh, Prabhu, you must be quite unauthorized. There's a very high level of fear you're operating under here. You must have stepped outside of I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, Srila, when Krishna was lifting Govardhan Hill, he was asking, come underneath. And you can imagine what that must have looked like, 7-year-old boy with a mountain, because it was a mountain at that time, it wasn't so much of a hill, on his little pinky. And it's a bit shaky, just to increase the leela. And he's saying, come on, it'll be okay. And he's thinking, I don't know whether I'll just take my chances in the rain, Have you got an umbrella? Krishna's saying, no, come on, everything will be fine, So Krishna wants us to take shelter of him and his devotees and follow the authorized path. And that means to put aside mundane conceptions, preconceived ideas of what we think. Like people are thinking that if I own a big house with really thick walls around it, then I'll be safe. I'll be A-okay. I mean, that's the general thing, isn't it? You buy your own house. You don't just rent it, because if you rent it, who knows? Somebody could always kick you out. You never know whether you're going to be 100%. If I can just get a house that I own, that's nice and big and strong, then I'll be A-okay. Then I'll be safe. And so it seems like that maybe for a very fleeting moment that now you're safe. But actually, there's a nice song, isn't there, by Govinda. He's saying, what assurance is there of happiness and safety, even though you're surrounded by all your relatives and friends? You can have everybody around you, but they can't actually free you from fear. And Krishna's saying, just take to this path and you become free from fear. So we need reassurance, we need encouragement to do that. Courage and encouragement, very similar. And then when we become endowed with that courage, then our duty is to also bring other people onto the path and free them also from the fear. Unit.
Just connected. Sometimes it seems that afraid, as they say, give up independence.
Yeah.
They're afraid they might lose their individuality, may lose their own personality. I just wonder if they're actually afraid to give up misusing their independence.
If I answer the question correctly, people that are afraid to give up their independence, and why they're afraid to give up their independence?
Yeah, well, don't want to explain to Krishna if you're taking the legal independence and the value of independence.
Yeah.
The fact is, the only something which Krishna takes away from it. So is it not more accurate to say that they're free to give up misusing their independence?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? When Dhruv Maharaj wanted to give up his independence. When Krishna appeared, Dhruva said, well, I don't want it anymore. And then Krishna insisted. He said, no, you independently asked for these. I know, but I'm okay now. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I've seen you now. That's it. I'm okay. Drop everything else. And Krishna says, no, you did want these things. So I'm going to make an arrangement. So Krishna's very personal. He doesn't, not only does he not want to take away our independence, but he enjoys our independence. And Krishna takes pleasure in the spiritual world with devotees that are already perfect, but he especially takes pleasure in seeing devotees, jivas, struggling to achieve perfection in the material world, because it's such a significant thing to do. So he becomes very pleased when he sees them handing over their independence to Krishna, and you're praying, this is so difficult for me to do, but I want to love you, I want to become pure. And Krishna is very pleased by that. But he doesn't reciprocate by taking it away. Shishikonitai Mai Pashashi Ki Jai. He reciprocates by empowering the devotee to flourish, to fully manifest all the potential that he has as a jiva, which is being fettered right now by the material energy. So Krishna's like, I endowed you with so much potential, and now you're starting to show it. I'm going to give you so much empowerment now. The odds were really stacked against Arjuna. There wasn't, from a technical point of view, it wasn't possible that he could have succeeded. But because he surrendered to Krishna, then Krishna magnified his independence and his potency beyond what he thought he was capable of. So people are crippled actually by the influence of the material energy, and because of that they become duratma. And by Krishna's grace, we can become relieved of the crippling, compromising effect of the material energy, and we can become Mahatma, which means broad. Instead of cripple-minded, broad-minded. From going handicapped to becoming completely empowered to be able to do all kinds of amazing and wonderful things. So Krishna empowers our independence. Actually, he doesn't want to take it away. He gave us it in the first place because that's what he loves. He loves to interact with personalities, and the more intimate, then Krishna casts aside his Godhead so that he can experience the most intimate exchange with his devotees, where they're fully independent and they even seem in a superior position to Krishna.
Thank you. I was wondering if that book Bhakti Yogis is unintelligent. So then my question is, how do the Mayavadis see the Goswamis and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Do they see them as Bhakti Yogis, or do they see them as unintelligent?
Well, there's a broad spectrum of all types of Mayavadis, and to some degree we're also tainted with a tendency for karma and a tendency for jnana. As soon as you're looking for freedom from disturbance, then watch out, that means you're looking for liberation. Although you may not realize that, but if you pin it down, you'll see that we're all tainted to one degree or another. So you have a whole spectrum. And some people are more offensive than others. Some Brahmavadis, like the Kumaras, they were ignorant of Krishna's personality, but when they came in contact, then they were able to just drop their in-person and think, this is much better than being in person. This is better than the Brahman. And they just dropped it, Whereas some may be antagonistic toward, and they envy the fact that, why Krishna, why not me? Who does he think he is, There's a difference between jealousy and envy. Jealousy is, oh, I wish I had that. Envy is, why has he got that? Who does he think he is? I should get that. So envy is more insidious than just being jealous. So because of envy, then the person wants to deny and wants to consider himself as good as Krishna. So that's like a bad attitude, really, isn't it? And then you use philosophy to bolster it. But the first problem is you've got a really bad attitude there, and then you're going to try and back that up with with some philosophy to make it seem like it's bona fide. But you're starting off with a very poor attitude in the first place. So we want to turn attitude into gratitude. So if you have attitude, it really impedes gratitude. And bhakti is a path of gratitude. Krishna consciousness means Krishna appreciation. It doesn't just mean Krishna awareness, because Kamsa was aware of Krishna, but he didn't appreciate Krishna. So we want to go from just being aware of things, we want to stimulate an emotional relationship with Krishna. And our relational skills are reflecting our level of Krishna consciousness. And we think, I've put the bead bag down now, that's my sadhana finished. But your sadhana begins at 9 o'clock actually, because that's when you start treating the devotees, how you interact with the devotees. So how you're acting is reflecting on your level of Krishna consciousness, how you're behaving toward others. What is your attitude toward others? Are you appreciating them? Are you feeling humble? Are you feeling unworthy to be in the association of such elevated personalities? So that's the right attitude. And then we have philosophy, and we have so many other things that back that up. But Lord Chaitanya left 8 verses. Of all the things he could have left, and the 8 verses are all about our attitude toward the holy name and toward the devotees. So that's the essential point, How are you relating and interacting with devotees and living entities all around you? That is a reflection of how Krishna conscious you are. So it's interesting because I know myself, I'm thinking, I'll put my bead bag on now, better be my best behavior. And then the bead bag goes off, and okay, let's get back to default. So you can practice sadhana throughout the day as well, and then that will impact on your next japa period, how you've been treating the devotees, how you've been applying yourself to devotional service. Have you been trying all day to really please? Did you really want to do this in a pleasing way, with devotion? Anything, it could be anything. Srila Prabhupada actually has a really nice letter, and he said the secret of Krishna consciousness is appreciating that the situation I'm in right now, with the devotees I'm with right now, and with the service I'm doing right now, is Krishna's special mercy upon me. He said, and the mistake that young devotees are making is that they're thinking that there needs to be some change of external circumstance, and then I can be Krishna conscious, then I can be okay, then I can have the right attitude. But you can't blame anybody else for your attitude. It's your choosing. You can choose your attitude. Nobody. That's your independence. You have that. So don't get cheated out of that. We have freedom of choice, but what we have a tendency to want is freedom from choice. Don't get my case. It wasn't my fault. Freedom of choice means you accept responsibility for how you are. You own it. You own your own reactions, and you own your own feelings, and you can align them with what is the devotional way to feel, and where's the devotional attitude that I should be having here. Yes, Prabhu.
There's a comment, and maybe a question I've got. So the comment says, Hare Krishna, I really love this lesson. I'm imagining a life without fear, joyous, waking every day and having a sense that all is okay. I think it has something to do with authenticity.
Yeah.
Living truly.
Thank you very much. It's really something Mahaprabhu was saying. Visualize what you're going to be like in 10 years from now, or what you would like to be like in 10 years from now. So say 10 years from now, you want to be fearless, you want to have a very deep taste for the holy name, you're going to be free of all your material desires, your resentments, your hankerings, your lamentations, and you visualize what would that be like? That would be so amazing if I was like that, and then start to make incremental steps to all dream like that. And that's the whole message of Sankalpa Kamudi, Sri Maharaj's latest book, is understand exactly where you are right now, and understand exactly what is the very next step to take. Not the step 10 steps on from now that you're never going to be able to make. But what can you, like these guys that jump they do the pole vault, they don't go from 6 feet to 10 feet. They go 6 feet 1 inch, 6 feet 2 inch, 6 feet 3 inch. That's how they eventually get to 10 feet. So with Bhakti, it's like that also. We don't become pure devotees overnight. And every day we make an incremental step closer to the way that we want to be. We're very clear about what it is we want to be like. We want to become free from fear. I want to tell you about how to do that. Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want to be free from fear. But what are they doing to achieve that? They're taking intoxication. And the problem with intoxication is you do become free from fear. But when the intoxication wears off, you're even more afraid. You're afraid of the thing you were afraid of. But now you're afraid of when you're going to be able to get the intoxication. And then it just intensifies. It becomes worse and worse. So, that's a very nice way to evaluate our life. Don't evaluate your life. How much money have I got in the bank now? I've got more in the bank than I had 10 years ago. How much more free or how much more full of fear am I now than I was 10 years ago? I'm getting free from fear. I'm making some good progress. I mean, it'll be great when we're able to start talking about the education systems. We can start putting these seed ideas into young people's minds that are, maybe the goal of life isn't to just accumulate stuff. Maybe it's to become free from fear. If I'd have had that when I was at school, I think it would have had an interesting effect. It would have percolated around in my subconscious for some time. But that's the goal, to become free from fear, so that at the ultimate moment when we have to leave this world, there's no fear anymore. There's no ignorance, there's no attachment. Okay, my life's finished. Okay, time to move on. And you know where you're going as well. And this is the chance right now, this very moment, you can do that. You can work on that right now. I'll just leave it to, I'll leave it. It's like we're going to have to do a drama one day, and it's they're on a river going towards a waterfall, and there are all these people in their canoes, and there's a guy going down the river backwards, and he's got an LCD 50-inch screen propped up in the canoe, and they're saying, "Hey, watch out, pal! There's a waterfall coming up." And the guy is saying, "Do you mind? I'm trying to watch the film. Can you stop disturbing me?" So people are getting ready. They're reading books about how to hold the canoe as you go over a waterfall, and learning all the techniques and getting ready for it. And this guy's going over backwards watching the telly. And anything can happen. He could crack his head on a rock on the way down. It's just going to be such a hellish situation and he's thinking, well, I don't want any fear. I want to be free of fear. I'm just going to chill out and just leave me alone, stop filling me with fear. But you're preparing yourself so that you can become free from fear. So you have to have a very clear idea of what reality is, what is the situation. And then you can work on it. You can prepare yourself. And it's not a quick fix, actually, to do that, to get to that point. We have to develop effective habits, and so we get training to learn how to do it. And along the way, there are little kind of wake-up calls that Krishna gives us just to help us see how we can become free from fear. And sometimes we're more free from fear than others, because sometimes we're in a very fearful condition. That's when we really chant sincerely. And then when things aren't so much of a problem, then we ease off. And Prabhupada makes the point in light of the Bhagavat that the rain comes only when the person is on the verge of dying of lack of water, so that they really appreciate it. But Prabhupada was saying, but we don't have to do that. We can appreciate the Lord's mercy all the time, proactively, so that we don't have to be put into a situation where we're gasping, so that So then only then do we get, does Krishna reciprocate with us. We can practically gasp for Krishna's mercy all the time and just realize, okay, I don't realize how difficult the situation is I'm in, but I'm philosophically aware of it. And so I'm going to call for help anyway. Otherwise, Krishna will maybe have to put us in a situation where we will have to call for help. So better if we just learn to call for help anyway, you know.
Thank you, Guru, for the class. Question.
On what grounds the Mayavadis claim that those practicing Bhakti Yoga they do not carry sufficient intelligence, or they are not very learned scholars and all?
Well, the history of Bhakti came to re-establish Vaishnavas had fallen into ill repute, and the Vaishnavas were just considered beggars, and they were looked down upon by the more intelligentsia class. They don't know anything. They're just doing a bit of singing a bit of Hare Krishna, and they just want you to throw them a crust of bread. So that was how degraded the Vaishnava society had become, and the way they were looked at by the supposedly higher classes in society. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur came to establish once again the supreme situation, the superiority of bhakti, and how it was the philosophy and the culture and the Siddhanta that is there. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur really spearheaded establishing in an institutionalized way the Gaudiya Math, and really showing, you know, that we can. He turned up at Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur turned up at Radhakund. I mean, Radhakund is the place where they were all, like, you know, thinking that they were the elitists, you know. And he turned up in a white Rolls Royce, and they all gathered round, you know, because what's a sannyasi doing with this kind of opulence? And then he did a dissertation on Yukta Vairagya to show how this can be used in Krishna's service. And then Srila Prabhupada completely took that to the ultimate point of spreading it all over the world, you know, and allowing women into the temple, and conducting marriages, and allowing people to get Brahmin initiation. Then the whole thing just opened wide up, you know. And now we have so much literature, so much access as well to knowledge, and literatures by the Goswamis, so much knowledge, so much information in there, which really bolsters our position, you know, and helps people to appreciate the superiority of the philosophy and the path of Bhakti Yoga. So yeah, it wasn't long after Lord Chaitanya left, actually, that it fell into degradation. And then Srinivasacharya and some of the great personalities, Narottam Das Thakur, Ramachandra Kaviraj, they were ordered by Jiva Goswami to again re-establish the superiority of Vaishnavism. So it doesn't take very long for things to break down. That's why the real challenge now in ISKCON is, can we keep the standards that Srila Prabhupada established, and can we become very conversant with the philosophy, so we don't end up drifting away and going back into the into a position where people could look down on us. The standard should be very high, the quality of bhakti should be very high, and everything should be done with knowledge, with etiquette, with culture. Everything should be there, you know. And Srila Prabhupada established. Okay, I'll finish there. ISKCON Govinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi, Haribo, Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki.